While they're fixing the things, I can see in the chat box that we are increasingly or gradually being joined by some really valued partners or individuals or entrepreneurs, some very unique ones who, frankly, I have only come to know during this process or exercise over the past weeks and months. And I'm so happy that some of them are already one by one coming and introducing themselves in the chat box. So that's something already the things are getting into motion. While they are fixing, let me carry forward the conversation, particularly for all the five individual, so distinguished panelists. We started around, I'll say that also to the larger crowd, we started in a rather laid back conversation with Zahid when I was in Sri Lanka, May, COVID. I think COVID, that's one great thing coming from COVID from my way. And then eventually he said that I have a partner in Amsterdam. So we started with the idea of having a study. Then came the idea of having this investment event. So they labeled it, christened it as a summit. I was slightly skeptic, worried, but be that as it be, we are here today.
Sir,
And
sir, sorry to interrupt. We are live now.
okay,
Great.
so should we go?
Yeah, sure, sir. You can start.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends in Netherlands, Bangladesh, in Bangladesh, good afternoon. In Netherlands, good morning. From the Embassy of Bangladesh in the Netherlands in Hague, a very warm welcome to everyone on board, not only in Bangladesh and Netherlands, but I believe across elsewhere, some also joining from Europe. We would be logged on for close to 90 minutes plus minus, and we'll try to take you a bit like roller coaster of this webinar. And I must underline from the word go that please don't think that this is going to be another conventional or the webinars or all the Zoom meetings. We're trying to really ensure that we get value for money while you get logged in. Now, first is how are we arriving? I'll take a few minutes in terms of getting all connected. One summer when we were having conversation with Light Castle, eventually it went to Lariv, we were thinking of mapping the economic engagements between Bangladesh and Netherlands. People generally tend to think that Netherlands in terms of a country rich with potato or otherwise visually with tulip or in terms of water and maritime issues, and then full stop. For 5 months of being Netherlands, I realized that the story is infinitely open. And then we have conversations with the Dutch government. And today I'm so happy and pleased that we, in this webinar or initiative, this is the first of the 3 webinars that we'll have, 2 today, 1 tomorrow. And the first one is on agriculture and food. We have then taken in a very exceptional manner partners and friends from the Dutch government, to start with Dutch Foreign Ministry, the Embassy of Netherlands in Bangladesh, and very valued partners like RVO, FMO, NAFIC, POOM, all are known in Bangladesh very widely. So it's been a work in progression. And that's when, as months passed by, we realized that apart from that Dutch side, Dutch individuals, experts went to Bangladesh in water and maritime, but hardly we realized what actually is Netherlands for Bangladesh. I mean, here's Netherlands, a country which is 16th largest economy in the world, Bangladesh 43rd, 44th, and we still think that the menu, or generally we understand the menu is only very limited, but it's actually much more than that. In fact, in July, when I was doing my rounds of call in Hague, and I met Jordanian ambassador, I can share with you, he shared this very interesting thing called, it's a National Geographic story, which appeared in September 2017, I believe cover story, which says that this tiny country feeds the world. And that was a primer for me. I realized that 3 things actually struck me. One is that the key crops has 90% less dependence on water. In terms of the Dutch greenhouses producing all kind of things, they have reduced the chemical pesticides on plants, and Dutch poultry and livestock has reduced or eliminated 60%, to the extent of 60% use of antibiotics. I think that should tell us all. Many even questioned me in Bangladesh, okay, so how large is Dutch Agri? I said last year, to my understanding, the Dutch Agri exports went beyond $106 billion. I believe these should tell us about what is there. One day I was passing by and I realized that there's something called Tomato World. Out of curiosity, I step in. I'm not going to floriculture, flowers at all, which we are so familiar with. I was surprised when I was told there are 85 to 86 documented varieties of tomato. The Jordanian ambassador told me, you know, Riaz, when it takes 96 liters of water for us to get 1 kg of tomato in Jordan, it takes only 6 liters of water in the Netherlands. I believe these small bits of things, it's not exhaustive, but I think in the times we'll come to understand and know more. So what are the advantages? Why is a marriage actually possible between Netherlands and Bangladesh, between the 5 distinguished panelists who will tell their stories, and eventually we'll come to know more from those who have already logged in. To my modest and rudimentary understanding, it's 2. Bangladesh offers a horizontal advantage because of our soil, because of millions of farmers, scale of production. And the kind of challenges we are seeing in the wake of climate change, for example, in case of floods, for example, there's absolute reasons and opportunities for those to be converted into opportunities. Netherlands side, here's another country with Delta, 7 months under very difficult, challenging circumstances in terms of climate and weather, but they have terrific vertical knowledge. Let's not forget, this is the second country in the world, second largest in the world in terms of agri exports, all combined, cereals, non-cereals, flowers, all together. And they bring what is absolutely, what is their good prospect for Bangladesh to harp is knowledge, technologies, innovations, and solutions. And solutions I consciously underline as well. And both our deltaic landscape are exceedingly challenged, not only today, but more so to come in the days ahead. I'll not bore right at the word go in terms of what we see the prospects. We'll hear the stories from the panelists as also from many others in the chat box. Before I proceed further, I'll request everyone present in the online who have logged in, please continue to very briefly put your ideas, your interests, specific ones, not general. And if you have any links to share, please populate that chat box, where from we'll actually pick up. And please be assured that this is not a one-off conversation today. It ends here. It's perhaps for a beginning of a process. Without further ado, we'll first hear a recorded message from the Dutch ambassador, my good friend, Ambassador Harry Verdwey. And then we'll go to a presentation, overarching presentation from Zahid and Matthias. So Zahid, if you take us forward.
Thank you, sir. We'll first do the presentation. We'll keep the video for the last half of the.
Please go ahead.
Can you see the screen?
Yes, yes.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Welcome, everyone from Bangladesh and from the Netherlands. I will take more around 7 to 10 minutes to briefly delineate on the salient economic fundamentals and potential of Bangladesh as an investment destination. And I would be followed by Matthias from Larive, who would be focusing a bit more on the agriculture sector in general. If I take a look at the overall macroeconomic scenario, we'll see that Bangladesh has performed quite well over the last decade. The GDP growth has been very consistent, around 6% over the last 10 years. Moreover, during the pandemic, while all the major economies have experienced a degrowth, our economy is expected to grow by more than 4%, according to IMF. And the World Bank has estimated that our growth would be around 1.5%, which is quite interesting. Alongside, according to the IMF's GDP projections, we'll know that within the year 2022, our GDP growth will bounce back to 8%. In terms of GDP per capita, Bangladesh has successfully grown over the last 6 years. Our per capita GDP is close to $1,900, which has for the first time surpassed that of India. And it's expected that within the year 2024, our per capita GDP would be permanently higher than that of India. And we have already graduated as a middle-income nation. and our graduation will be ratified in the year 2024. So in general, we have done quite well. So what are the factors which have caused this revolutionary impact on the country's economy? If you look at the population, you'll see that like more than 170 million people, roughly ensconced in an area the size of Iowa in the US. You'll see the demographic dividend is there. A lot of young people, and also a lot of people in a very small area, which we call a density dividend, roughly around 1,260 people per square kilometers. In general, the working population is quite high as well, which is around 56%, and our median age is 27 years. In terms of our income growth, just as I have mentioned, the per capita income has significantly grown, which has led to a large increase in the number of middle income population. According to a study done by the Boston Consulting Group, we have seen that the middle and affluent class population will increase to 34 million within the year 2025, and which would significantly bolster domestic demand. In terms of the FX reserve, we'll see that our FX reserve is 41 billion, which would cover 8 months of our import payments. And in terms of the other macroeconomic fundamentals, our inflation rate is quite stable, which is quite unlike what we were experiencing for the other economies in general. And in terms of the debt to GDP ratio, our debt to GDP ratio is quite low, which is around 36%, which is significantly lower compared to that of the neighboring countries. In terms of the economic fundamentals, just as I have told you, there is a very large working population. As we have seen, the wage rate is significantly lower than that of the competing countries like India, China, and Vietnam. But we also have to keep in mind the productivity factor. Although productivity is slightly lower compared to the other countries, but our labor productivity is increasing at a rapid pace. In terms of management wages as well, our management wage is quite competitive. It's much lower than our competing countries. In terms of our electricity tariff rate, it's also one of the lowest in the region, even lower than India and China. And in terms of the Dutch participation, I would mention that although there have been some significant investments happening over the last 20 to 30 years, mainly, for example, FMO has invested in Omera LPG 4 or 5 years back. There has been a large investment in ACI Motors this year, worth 13 million. And on the other side, there has been significant investment in GP back in 2030, which is Bangladesh's largest telecom service provider, apart from Dutch Bangla Bank, which is one of the largest retail bank in Bangladesh. In terms of export, Bangladesh exports roughly around $685 billion in apparel, and also food. We also export footwear and frozen food. In terms of comparison, Bangladesh, although Bangladesh needs a lot of investment, it needs a lot of investment, and we can see that FDI stands for 3% of the overall investment that we are getting. So there is a lot of room for improvement when you do a comparison with the other competing nations in general. If I take a very close look at the agriculture sector, as we know, agriculture constitutes or contributes 14% of our country's GDP. Although it's not much when you compare with the secondary and the tertiary sector, but this sector employs close to 41% of our working population. So that explains why this particular sector is quite important. Is quite important for us. In terms of our produce, we normally mainly produce rice, which is our staple food, followed by wheat and potatoes. In terms of different opportunities with the Netherlands, we believe that there is a lot of opportunities in terms of production activities like crop diversification, technology transfer, agriculture mechanization, seed processing, logistics, and also in terms of packaging as well. Because in the agriculture sector, we have seen a lot of post-harvest loss happening. In terms of the protein consumption, we can see that since Bangladesh is an LDC, our per capita protein consumption is quite low. It's below average. But the heartening thing is, like, our per capita protein consumption is growing at a very, very significant pace. And it's expected that it will keep on growing as our per capita income increases. In terms of the backward linkages as well, we have also seen that demand for poultry meat, demand for livestock, demand for aqua has also grown in tandem with the rise in demand. And alongside, the market for feed is also growing at a phenomenal pace. In terms of egg consumption, our egg consumption rate is quite high, which is 104, which is on par with the global average, which is a positive sign. In terms of the aquaculture sector, as we know, Bangladesh's major protein consumption comes from the aquaculture sector, from fish consumption, and we can see the per capita fish consumption is around 21 kgs per annum, and the production is roughly around 10 to 15%. But what's happening over the last 10 to 15 years is particularly a lot of aquaculture projects are coming up, and currently the production, 52% of the production comes from the aquaculture firms. In terms of the different production, we have seen that carps, other inland fish, and exotic carps, and pangas and tilapia are some of the major breeds that are being harvested here in Bangladesh. In terms of the poultry sector, we also have seen that Bangladesh's overall consumption is quite low, and there is a lot of scope for improvement compared to the livestock and the fisheries sector or the aquaculture sector. The poultry sector is more structured in its way, because there are quite a few large players who have GP farms, PS farms, and there are hundreds and hundreds of SMEs spread across the country, which means that we have large volume and large supply of poultry items, which includes meat and also eggs. I will stop here, and I'll ask my colleague Matthias to take the conversation from here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sept, for this introduction. If you could go one slide back to the overall production and consumption of poultry, meat, and eggs in Bangladesh, you will notice that consumption of poultry meat in Bangladesh is roughly at 8.5 kg per head per year, which is comparable to other Asian markets, still relatively low. It's in between Myanmar and Indonesia, where we see, thanks to growing incomes in Bangladesh, we see the opportunity for the sector to further increase, probably going towards 12 kg per head in the next 5 years. Bangladesh is still not yet reached the level of, for example, Vietnam or Thailand, which are more developed livestock markets in Asia. If we go to the next slide. Yes, thank you. We verified the livestock industry in Bangladesh, roughly 4 billion euro, growing annually about 900 birds per year. The sector is distinguished between more traditional varieties such as Sonali and Deshi, which are local breeds or crossbreeds. And you also have the commercial broilers and layers, which are also known in other markets. What is different in Bangladesh than other markets is that the whole downstream segment is relatively undeveloped. Approximately 2 to 3% of the industry birds are being processed in professional slaughterhouses. And that is relatively lower than in other Asian markets. So from the other hand, there's also an upside for further improvement. As such, we also have been studying the opportunities in the livestock market during the past year on behalf of the Netherlands Embassy in Dhaka. And following joint conversations, we have agreed that we will start a poultry cooperation from next year onwards. And if we go to the next slide, Sept, together with the Embassy of the Netherlands in Dhaka, we agreed that there will be a project launched named Poultry Tech Bangladesh, which is a public-private partnership between Dutch and Bangladeshi companies, which jointly have the ambition to strengthen the local industry and also improving their commercial position within this market. So we talk about a 4-year project starting from the second quarter of next year onwards. And we will focus on a number of activities, which will mostly be geared around strengthening the upstream part, which is improving the genetics, better quality day-old chicks, in combination with strengthening the capabilities in terms of farming. So we will establish a number of demonstration broiler and layer farms. And furthermore, we will eye on strengthening the whole downstream segment of the livestock industry. So we will establish a demonstration slaughterhouse, potentially also in combination with further processing and wastewater treatment. And these demonstration activities will be strengthened, combined with a number of training programs. These will be focused on breeding and hatchery management, the whole farming segment. So from biosecurity, layer and broader farm management capabilities, but also reducing antibiotics, which is one of the key focus points of the Dutch government, and also improving downstream activities, including logistics. So this program will start from the second quarter of next year onwards, which will be a first of its kind in Bangladesh, public-private partnership between Dutch, Bangladeshi, private sector players, knowledge institutes, and the Dutch government. So that's one of the first achievements of the cooperation between Larive and Light Castle. We're looking forward to it. Thank you, Sept.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Matthias. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Zahid and Matthias, for the very succinct and very comprehensive and rapid rundown of the sector and some of the precise areas where you have already been working or zooming in terms of the possible products. I must underline to everyone that we are here in not only this webinar, but on this journey, thanks to the two young men who you have seen. I would call them young men with full liberty on my side. But also the very valued partnership with Larive and Light Castle. Zahid, can we now hear the pre-recorded message from Ambassador Harry in Dhaka?
Sir, we might have to wait a bit. We are facing some technical problems.
Okay.
So
can we keep that pending? And let me now turn to the distinguished panelists. And in order for, we have 5 distinguished panelists, and in the interest of saving time, if you could all bear with me, particularly if the panelists could excuse me if I skip their introduction, and in the interest of time, because everyone knows you. We have shared in detail as to your eminent expertise and credentials. First to Mr. Haminga. If I may have Mr. Haminga on board. I have 2 questions to you. I know that as the commercial director of Royal Pass Farm, you have been in many countries around the world, including in the Asia Pacific. So what actually led you to come to Bangladesh, pay attention to Bangladesh? And you have been here for quite some time now. And what's been your experience in terms of locally organizing a business? Because many of our friends from the Netherlands are looking at Bangladesh first time. Over to you.
It's been quite some time that I have been coming to Bangladesh, actually. I think the first time I came was 1992, something like that. And I worked with one of the, I would say, the originators of the poultry industry in Bangladesh. That was called Eggs and Hens from Ghazipur. Long time working with them. But those days, and that you could also see on the slides of Matthias and Sept, the numbers were extremely small. I mean, we brought out 2,000 or 3,000 breeding stock on a yearly basis to Bangladesh. If you look at the numbers now, I mean, it's really been growing and growing. Since early 2000s, I'm involved in the hatchery industry in Bangladesh. And why do you go to a country like Bangladesh? Well, you have shown the figures, I think, and the figures are that there's an enormous potential for growth in consumption, and there's a need, and there's a, how do you say, there's a welcoming interest in Bangladesh always on technology. So I've always felt very welcome if I came to Bangladesh. People welcome you to come in with technical solutions for issues that they come across, and I think that has shown, and you should go and you should keep on going. That is, it's not a country where if you go once or twice, you'll have a commercial success. This is something that needs a long-term personal and from a company standpoint investment to go and to keep on coming. And then the business is coming, and we have had very substantial, very good business. We are actually, Mr. Itesham, who is sitting there, as one of our respected clients in the field of incubation. So yeah, it's been quite good for us to come to Bangladesh.
If I may come to you again, if I, for example, am a Dutch agro farm based in Rotterdam or maybe Wageningen, and I'm mulling to move to Bangladesh. What would be, for example, your advice if you look at 3 to 5 areas that I can explore coming to Bangladesh?
You mean the areas in which you would have to go and?
Yeah, areas, for example, which you, having been on the ground for almost 3 decades now.
Well, I must say that we have been working, and that's the nature of our business, that we work from 1 or 2 or 3 production centers in the world. So we are not actually locally producing in Bangladesh. We bring our technological solutions to the Bangladeshi industry, and we produce the results of our machinery in the market itself. We don't produce our machines in Bangladesh. I think what is very important if you want to set up a business in Bangladesh, be it exports, that you make sure you have a good partner. It would have been impossible for me to do the business we do now without having a good, reliable local partner. And that local partner should not only be a guy that would represent you on a commercial basis, but he should also have technicians on board. Because anything to do with agriculture, I always say it's like, if you like repetition, you should like agriculture. It's not like we want to have a fantastic result on a Monday and a lousy hedge on a Thursday. That's not the way it works. You should have a good hedge every day. And in order to get that, you need to have that technical backup, because we are talking about technological processes that we want to keep into our hands. We want to dominate, we want to control the processes. So having local technicians is of extreme importance, I would say, in order to get real good results. And we've seen that there is lots of very clever people around them. Maybe 20 years ago, they did not all have that skill to support the needs of our machinery in Bangladesh. But today itself, we have, together with the people of Axon, that is guys from Bangladesh, Zaidul Islam and his team, they must have 5 or 6 or 7 skilled technicians that can actually follow up on the results that we have in the field. And I think that is of an utmost importance. So find somebody that you trust, try to work a couple of years with them, see that the trust is there, and make sure you have a technical backup. I think that those would be my major points of attention.
Okay. Great, thank you. I think one of the things that you underlined, and I must connect both our Dutch friends and Bangladeshi friends here, in this webinar and in this whole journey for past few months, one of our sincere endeavor was to bring on board, including in this webinar, the really credible, tested, known, credential worthy Bangladeshi conglomerates, farms, individual entrepreneurs. So when you were underlining all that you said, I thought that that will be important for every one of us to take note of. So when you're saying in the chat box, many populating, I think there's a parallel conversation going on there. Let me turn to Ms. Groot. East-West Seed, you have been in 60 countries over the past years and covering almost as many as 20 million small and marginal farmers. So how was your experience? I mean, how did you land up in Bangladesh, and what's been your journey like in Bangladesh?
Thank you. Yes, indeed, we were founded in 1982, almost 40 years ago, by my father, Simon Groot. We are, although a family Dutch business, we are really located in Asia with our headquarters in Bangkok. We've become market leader in tropical vegetable seeds in Southeast Asia, and we're increasingly expanding to South Asia. So Bangladesh is a very obvious country for us to work. We develop and we distribute vegetable varieties that are suitable for the conditions in Bangladesh. We have the tropical varieties that fit with the climate, that have the disease tolerance that is needed. We work on the varieties that fit the climatic conditions, which are, of course, quite stringent in Bangladesh. And we feel that our regional...
I'm sorry for my interjection. And these are not GMO varieties, if you can explain. These are really organic ones, isn't it?
Well, not exactly organic, but we do not work with GMO varieties. We develop our varieties in our R&D labs. We work both with traditional methods, but also more advanced techniques to develop better varieties. The varieties that we sell in Bangladesh are hybrids. which means that they have come from a different father and mother plant, or we sell open pollinated seeds, but there are no GMO varieties on the market by Swiss Seed. Yeah.
So in this journey, what would be your takeaway for a prospective Dutch family farm or entrepreneur to move into Bangladesh? What would be the 2-3 key factors you'd identify?
Well, for us, it's, as I said, very useful to work, to have a regional approach, because we have the experience and the knowledge to work in countries in Asia. We have a lot of ability to also start the Bangladesh market. We have the team that can support. And of course, we have the genetic material, the varieties that we work with in other countries. We can also partly sell in Bangladesh for as far as the Bangladesh market, and the farmers are looking for these varieties. But of course, as Bauke also emphasized, a local approach is key. We work with ACI Seeds as our sole distributor. Dr. Ansare is also in this panel. So that's very important. Of course, we also have a dedicated local team, and training local staff is vital when you want to enter a new market. What we do also is we have a granular approach. So we try to build up a very detailed distribution network, reaching out to farmers, training them, showing them improved cultivation techniques, showing them the difference between maybe traditional farm-safe seeds and improved commercial varieties by setting up demo plots. It takes huge investments, but you have to be present. You can't, as Bauke said, do it from a distance. You have to be there.
Thank you. You have recently, I mean, East West Seed has recently partnered with Solidarid and also Agrotech to train 25,000 small farmers in Bangladesh. If that's correct, then what actually led you to do that, and how, as a business, you see that being paid off?
Well, the mission of our company is to improve smallholder farms' income. And we've seen that the best way to do it is not only bring them the better seeds, which can step up the yield and therefore the income, but it also comes with better cultivation techniques. And we've, over the years, we've developed it into our knowledge transfer program, targeting about 100,000 farmers every year. But we've now set up this specific program for Bangladesh, together with Solidaridad and Agrotech, to train 25,000 farmers. We're also training government extension officers, and we're training farmers not only in good agricultural practices, so simple techniques to step up their production, but also improve techniques in dealing with pesticides, connecting them to the markets, setting up systems so they have better access to seeds and other inputs, and also making sure that they can, again, sell off their produce to the wet markets. For us, it is a way to develop new markets. Farmers will understand the added value of better seeds if they know how to deal with them. But it also opens the markets to our competitors. It is basically developing the vegetable seed sector of Bangladesh. We hope that the production will increase and that there will also be more healthy food available for the population of Bangladesh, even in the challenging climatic circumstances that the country is in.
What you're saying is very interesting, and one of the things that I would put before all the 5 distinguished panelists is that it's not simply Bangladesh per se, but not Bangladesh market or things to do within Bangladesh. Let me give an example. This week, 6th of December to be precise, we signed a PTA, preferential trade agreement with Bhutan. What should it mean to us or you all? For example, it's all about supply chain. I know that when I was in Nepal almost 10 years back, I was told by the Nepalese agriculture minister, you know, in our hills, we have a fantastic collaboration going on with a Bangladeshi seed company. I said, what's that? And how is that? He said that they are growing their cauliflower and cabbage seeds in our hills, given the ambient temperature, and then taking it to Bangladesh. So when I look at, for example, Bhutan, and Bhutan has in some of the vegetables or horticulture lines, they have fabulous stock. I would see for asparagus, for example, one, and then I would see that a possibility for a collaboration right there from having a footprint in Bangladesh and going into global or regional supply chain. So what you're saying makes sense in that regard. Let me turn to Mr. Shahjahan. Mr. Shahjahan, yes, you have been the FIAB president so for quite some time, and question what would be of our interest is to understand that how do you look at poultry and feed industry, the growth of it over the past years in Bangladesh, and how would you look at the prospect? We heard from Matthias, for example, quite at length. So connecting with that, what would be your take?
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for inviting me here. Well, I can tell you for the last 25 years, since we have been in business for the last 25 years, and since 1995, in fact, we have been celebrating our 25th year this month. And over these years, we have seen amazing transformation in the feed sector, in the farming sector, and overall consumption patterns and integrations among the subsectors and consumer behavior and everything. The private sector has been instrumental, along with the favorable government initiatives that has come across for many years. I mean, this sector has been a thrust sector for many years. We have been able to achieve the status of the fourth, and I believe now we are the third largest inland water fish producing country. Consumptions have also gone up, but we have our challenges. One of the greatest challenges that I believe is at the farm level, where we find that both poultry and fish farmers are not utilizing the current global technological trends that can be applied in Bangladesh. For example, you talk about aerators or water purification, or you do when you from one crop to the next crop, you go and then you have to sanitize the area and everything on that. So I believe the technological transfer, although has happened greatly in Bangladesh, Bangladesh is very hungry for technology. The entrepreneurs especially have embraced technology, because we have seen that sticking with the technologically advanced companies, like for example PAS reform, it gives you mileage. If I particularly talk about PAS reform, for example, our experience is that we get higher hatchability, we get less damage, and at the days and our calculation shows that even if you pay higher than so-called some Chinese companies, but it pays off in the long run. It does. I think that what we need going forward is to come at par with the developed countries in terms of agriculture, in the sense that technology needs to be embraced. When we say embraced, it's easier said than done. There are exercises where we can ensure that the technology is embraced. The technology is very much there. Now, bracing the technologies will be one of the greatest challenges for us to go forward. I'll give you an example. For example, we have about 100 doctors working across the country, supporting our farmers, and 1,000 distributors that are distributing our feed. And the greatest challenge that we face is that the compliance, the biosecurity, these kind of things. So, that it directly sort of puts a pressure on us in terms of our reputation, in terms of our commitments, and in terms of our strategy or plans to go forward. Netherlands, being one of the most advanced nations in the world in terms of facing challenges, I think is the best partner that we can have for a country like Bangladesh, because both of our countries are challenged by water. Netherlands has solved it. We are still in the process, but I think Dutch companies are involved in river training and other areas. And I think that this is a very good initiative, but we need to go and have more discussions to pinpoint what are the areas that we need for the benefit of the joint collaboration among these two countries to take fruition. But at the day's end, I am very optimistic because we have been able to achieve over the years, and the feed sector, if I may mention, has overcapacity as far as production capacity is concerned. There are a lot of foreign companies that have come into Bangladesh, big companies like CP, like New Hope and Tongwei and others, which is good. But my feeling is that we should have investments in areas where Bangladesh lacks in terms of technology. Just merely feed mills coming in and doing replicative jobs will not serve the purpose. It will be overcrowded. So I would, my personal feeling is that the government should allow, in consultation with the sector, what kind of investments can be brought in for the benefit of the whole overall sector, because we are talking about food security.
If I may just interject, Mr. Azan, I mean, we have very purposefully kept aside the elements or the constraints or challenges that we are confronting in Bangladesh in terms of the policy, regulation, that space. But if I may put across a very specific thing, if you, for example, 25 years of being in the business, you for one is to look at 2-3 specific Dutch technologies which you'd believe that are crucial for you to move forward in the next 3 to 5 years horizon. What would be those, for example? Because one of the strengths that I understand is that the Netherlands is not a land of big conglomerates. It's all about thousands of Dutch farmers, innovators, incubators. So looking at them, and some of them are on board. So look at them, what kind of signal would you give?
I think one of them would be the distribution network. Production from the farm to the end consumer is in Bangladesh is here can look into how we can bring in technology to easily transfer the farm produce to the end consumers. This is one area that we can focus. The other areas could be, for example, in shrimp, for example, practices in terms of farming, because we see a lot of wastage or a lot of unproductivity going into shrimp farming. We could have been one of the leading shrimp export countries in the world. Although we are very much in the map, but given the size of Bangladesh and what she has achieved, I think we could do something over there. So I think basically what I can suggest is that how best we can identify and bring in the technologies in terms of poultry farming, fish farming, dairy farming, as well as shrimp farming. Now, if you want me to mention one particular area among these four, I would say dairy, because dairy has lagged behind leaps and bounds behind shrimp and poultry farming and shrimp farming. So dairy farming, we need genetics, we need good market practices, we need the technology to set up dairy farm, beef fattening farm, and things like that.
That's great. I had a conversation with the Dutch Dairy Association, and I could tell you that that kind of resonance we did hear from them, but they are, I think that's an area where we'll have to go some distance over the months and years ahead to really reach out to them, convince them. Let me turn to Ms. Boschlo, if I pronounce your name right. You represent RVO. For our friends in Bangladesh, this is Dutch Enterprise, Netherlands Enterprise Agency. RVO is the lead in terms of mobilizing, shepherding, nurturing the enterprises across Netherlands, and also they connect with the partners in other countries. Now, Ms. Boschlo, RVO has been at work in Bangladesh for quite some time. In agro-food sector overall. How has been your experience, particularly in Bangladesh, compared to the rest of the Southeast Asia?
Yeah, maybe some general remarks based on, we do a lot of studies and work in different countries. And in terms of the development of the agro-food sector, I would say it's still lagging a bit behind compared to the countries in the region. If you take a look at food security, the productivity and quality is relatively low. And also with regard to food security, which is also important for the export, traceability, food security, there could still be improvements. So also issues such as processing, post-harvest handling leads to relatively high food loss, post-harvest losses, and we still see some constraints in the business environment. So we do still see relatively more challenges than some countries in the region where we are active. On the other hand, we see a huge potential, as Sept already mentioned. The economic growth is good compared to the region, and there's a huge internal market, increasing middle class, and actually the challenges that we see, they are quite a good fit to the expertise that the Netherlands could offer, both from the government and from the private sector. But on the other hand, despite this huge potential that we see, we keep statistics at RVO with regard to the questions that are asked and services that are provided both by embassies and by RVO itself. And the interest from the private sector in the Netherlands is quite limited, more on the level of Myanmar than on the level of Vietnam and Thailand. It's the interest of Dutch companies for Thailand and Vietnam is 5 to 10 times bigger if you take a look at the questions that are asked to us. So to sum it up, we see a big potential with quite some challenges, and I think a partnership and the involvement of the private sector could really address those challenges so that there's a mutual growth. But there's still some work to be done in order to involve the Dutch private sector.
So what specific things you may consider or mull over in terms of bridging the gap? Let me give an example. While there are constraints and constraints are known, but also if I invite our attention to the chat box, there is a very interesting gentleman who has logged in, who is an NGO. But that gentleman has actually transformed a part of Bangladesh which used to be underwater for 7 to 8 months clear, and now they've turned it into an opportunity for the community there, where they now have created a model called Dautkan, the floodplain model of inland fishing by the communities, not by any business per se. I would invite your attention and having a look at that as RVO, how you may look at such in terms of scaling up your attention and also hand-holding for Dutch business in Bangladesh.
Yeah, maybe I can zoom out a little bit and explain our approach in getting the private sector more involved, and then maybe get back to this specific example. It's good to stress that RVO is closely cooperating with the Netherlands embassy in Dhaka, and as we consider the agri-food sector to be a very important sector, we have a lot of priorities of trying to improve the cooperation there. So on the one hand, we try to stimulate capacity building, working on an enabling environment. But on the other hand, we noticed in order to get more parties involved from the Netherlands, we need to promote Bangladesh a little bit more so that there will be more examples of the project you just mentioned. And in the past, we have tried organizing a mission and noticed that we had around 6 participants, which is not really enough to have a successful mission. So based on that, we decided that it's important not to only say as embassy or as RVO, oh, Bangladesh is such a good, provides such good possibilities, but we decided to really invest in creating a lot of studies, quick scans, using local and Dutch experts that are really well known, so that if they point out opportunities, that the sector can really value their assessment.
Okay, great.
So this goes.
Yeah, sorry. No, I'm not cutting you because what you're saying is absolutely known, and that's a truth. But what I'm going to show you is that if you go to LinkedIn and some other platforms, you'd see that there's a kind of interest and also very conscious effort to turn it around, not simply in terms of visibility, but in terms of putting across the real face of Bangladesh business, Bangladesh private sector, in terms of very credible and responsible before the Dutch audience, not simply the Dutch farms, but also individuals, entrepreneurs, and innovators. We're making very conscious effort on that, and I can assure you that from the embassy in Hague, we will certainly extend our hands in terms of addressing or turning it to a positive round. And for all of us, one of the things which would come end of this webinar, in fact, day after tomorrow, is a study, first ever mapping Dutch-Bangladesh economic engagements, and also indicating possible areas of collaboration that would go some distance in addressing what Ms. Boschler, you're saying.
But because maybe I don't want to finish with saying that we had a attempt for a mission that only had 6 participants. What I would like to finish but saying that we see that if you do these extensive studies, and we've already done some, and we have about 5 to 7 more in the planning, then you can provide detailed information, and then you get the interest from the private sector. And the project that's about to start on poultry is a very nice example of that. This also started out with a study. The study was presented during an event. The private sector was involved, and by taking such a stepwise approach and really providing in-depth information on the situation, we're now about to start with a project that incorporates more than 10 companies, both from Bangladesh and the Netherlands. So I do see the potential, I do see the solution, and I think it's all about providing more information in depth and connecting people so that we can work on these challenges together. And the role of RVO and the embassy is to facilitate this sharing of information, and also, of course, to provide funding to some level, for instance, for the poultry partnership.
Points all well taken. As I said, it's a multiple of 8 or 10 you're looking at, and following this conversation, this webinar, we can certainly provide you with all our vetting, as many as 30, 40, 50, or multiple of 8 to 10, certainly. Let me turn to Dr. Ansari. Dr. Ansari, we heard about you from Ms. Groot already, and so we'd like to hear from you. How's been your experience in ACI? Because you have really done some pioneering work in terms of providing quality agro inputs to farmers, particularly small and marginal farmers. So working with a European partner, to be very frank, that's not usual, conventional often. So what's been your experience in that journey?
Thank you, His Excellency, and Madam Groot. I think she explained very systematically how Sept is supporting Bangladeshi farmer and transforming technology from traditional farming to the modern farming. Actually, we know everybody that Bangladesh is a country with a huge population and also large consumer base, and half of the population is engaged in agriculture. That is a very important aspect of this country. Asia is a leading agriculture company having a clear mission, wealth creation for the farmer. And Asia is transforming the traditional farming practices through providing technology, communication, and practices. Mostly our technology we generally collect across the world, and also we innovate locally. We have our strong research base with the support of global companies. To access technology and input, Sept is collaborating with Sept, a leading seed company in the world for the vegetable seed. And also we have collaboration with another Netherlands seed company, Sept, Holland, that is for the industrial potato, because we need we have a huge potato, but mostly potatoes are edible potato, but we are accessing most commercial varieties so that we can use this as a value-added proposition for the oil creation for the farmer. We are also in fertilizer businesses and collaborating our technology with WWR of Netherlands for biofertilizer. We are the leading biofertilizer company in Bangladesh. And we are in crop care businesses, crop protection businesses, and we are also accessing biopesticide from England as well as also from Netherlands. And we are the largest farm mechanization company in Bangladesh, collaborating with FMO now, Netherlands, and they have invested in our company. And through their investment, we can extend more financial services to our rural farmers, small farmers, for the farming services, entrepreneurship development, and empowerment. So these are the activities we are doing. On top of it, ACI, we are also animal health business and integrated poultry, aqua, and cattle businesses. We have a joint venture with Indian company, but most of the technology coming from Western world, and especially the machinery and equipment coming from Netherlands. ACI Animal Health collaborating with Familco Netherlands for the animal nutrition and feed additive businesses. So you can see here, we have a huge collaboration with Netherlands company as well as also many of the European companies for the technology, because technology is very vital for the agriculture productivity. For communication and extension, this is very important for the development of a small farmer to productive farmer. And this extension is very important. Nowadays, we are using digital platform, and Asia Digital Services collaborating with Netherlands Space Office to develop digital platform. Our platform is Fasoli, and through this Fasoli, we could connect our farmer with the input retailer, extension worker from the government, and also the guys who are generally providing technology to this kind of to millions of farmers. We have seafood businesses, and recently we put a very huge investment for the shrimp processing plant. You know, a few minutes back, my colleague from Quality Feed, he mentioned about the shrimp in Bangladesh. Our shrimp is the best quality shrimp in the world, and the variety is tiger. And basically, we are processing the shrimp, and now we're exporting to Netherlands and many of the European countries. And the result, I can say the growth is substantially very high. In 8-9 months, we have exported very large quantity of shrimp across the world, especially in Netherlands. We have also food processing industries because, you know, now I explain about basically input technology and pure agriculture. Now I'm talking about the process agriculture. We are in food processing industry, and recently you'll be happy to know that we have formed a joint venture with Poro, Danish company, 50-50 joint venture, and we are now planning to process food. You know,
Dr. Ansari, can I ask you something very specific? When you started your conversation with FMO, a European partner, your European bank, and you moved along that, how was your experience? I am asking it very frankly because for a potential Dutch partner, a Bangladeshi collaborator to tie up, they would be interested, I believe, to understand that. It's not usual because many often may try to shy away from approaching or having on board. So how was your experience?
Great experience, no doubt. Practically, we are talking with FMO last 1.5 years, and recently they put up a very good investment with us.
I'm sorry to, I mean, it will be of our interest, even including mine, that what kind of things that, let's say 4 to 5 things that they asked you, which you would think would be critical for someone following this conversation to understand, so that they know that this is a European bank, this is what FMO might ask for, a Dutch partner may ask for. So if you could just highlight those.
Actually, I was going to tell that story. Actually, they are very much focused on the company mission, actually what is the purpose, what we are doing, and they look at it when they see that we are really doing something for the transformation of traditional agriculture to mechanized agriculture. That is one of their huge interest. And then second is that they have seen that what is the ethics we follow in our company, so that ethics actually bring the company to the future and to the sustainable level. Third, they have seen also the company management and standard. That is very, very important, and the commitment, that is very, very important. These are the things, I think, qualitative and quantitative, no doubt. They have seen growth year to year, how much we are growing, whether we are growing sustainably or not. These are the few things they consider very closely. Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's been a very engaging, insightful, and reflective conversation from each of the panelists, and thank to each of them. Let me turn to the chat box. I mean, I could see that, frankly, I'm unable to keep pace with the kind of things that are coming the chat box way. But still, I'll pick up a few, and which I believe might be useful for us. Some may be in terms of very specific business proposition. Our team, including Farah and a few others, are collating those. We might come back to you later, if not beyond this conversation. But let me underline a couple of those. One is, I see that there's a very interesting thing coming from someone in Sweden. They are looking at jute, and they now perhaps have something patented, blending jute with plastics, and they are going for commercial production. Very fascinating. I guess that might be something of interest to many others. Seed, both to SEI and Ms. Brute, you have been looking at potato and vegetables, etc. But I, for one, I'm pretty fascinated with tomato, for example. And so could it be possible, if I may ask Dr. Ansari to you, that if you could have the Dutch genetic material or have some collaboration some way on tomato, and given our agroclimatic advantages in Bangladesh, not certainly greenhouse way, and then look at tomato or some other vegetables which are not looked at that great commercially, what could be your take on that? I mean, beyond moving from potato. I was also told by our honorary consul in Rotterdam, Martin, that onion, if we look at one or two of Bangladesh districts, with Dutch technology or seed varieties in onion, for example, the ground Bangladesh can eventually be made surplus very fast. So what would be your take on some of the few of such vegetables?
Actually, if you look at the tomato is a very important crop in Bangladesh, and you'll be very surprised to know that only about 4 or 5 years back, a large quantity of tomato is to import in a summertime from India. Now, we are now growing tomato in a multiple season. Even we are growing in the winter season, we are growing in rainy season, we are also growing in a hot summer, because of basically the variety. And these varieties are mostly imported variety. We are also doing developing a tomato with East-West seed, and that tomato can even grow up to 40 degrees Celsius temperature, and also can be stored in 7 to 10 days in an ambient temperature up to that kind of things. But still, we are interested for that tomato seed in Bangladesh, and this is very important crop because of two things. One is the tomato used here in a vegetable. Mostly each and every curry we mix tomato. At the same time, also tomato paste and also tomato are used for many different kind of packaging food.
Okay, can I come to Mrs. Brute again? Connect you. A very fascinating piece of information. Last year, it was estimated that Bangladesh has grown around 10 million fruits. Out of that, mango alone was accounted for around 2.8 million metric tons. But sadly, around 30 to 35% of the harvested fruits actually got lost because of post-harvest technologies being missing. So when I look at, for example, both FMO and East-West seed, I believe FMO would be, RVO may be of more interest, or anyone of the panelists. How do you look at, because today the Western world is very excited about jackfruit, for example, but we simply don't, jackfruit frankly rots in Bangladesh. We simply don't have at the farmers level or beyond any supply chain, no technology whatsoever. So what would be your take on the entire the horticulture, particularly looking at the fruits in Bangladesh? And I'm not looking simply mango and jackfruit, but you also have great cash crops like pineapple, you have guava, which are frankly, or lychee, for instance, which are not looked at commercially at all. So anyone from the panel?
Actually, if you look at the mango,
maybe can we hear from either Ms. Boshlo or Ms. Grute on this? One of you may take a take on this.
Well, to be honest, jackfruit in particular, I wouldn't know, but I think the horticulture sector, both open and protected, is a huge area of interest, both with regard to fruit and vegetables. And this is something that we're really diving into currently, also with more quick scans that will be published next year. And we will also organize events around it. And there will be a specific study on fruits as well. So later that year, I would be able to give a more substantiated answer to this. I think it's definitely a sector of interest and definitely a priority for RVO and the embassy to explore further. Follow our website. And if you would like to know more specifics, in my team, we have Chen Hoang, and of course, there's the Netherlands Embassy in Dhaka, and they can provide you with specific details on what the study is about.
Great, thank you. We have two very specific things I'll read out to all of us here in the panel and also in the audience. One is from the Bangladesh Natural Rice Bran Oil Association, the chairman of it, Limited, the chairman. And he's posing a question, if they would like to export any agro product in Netherlands, particularly rice bran, how how that could be paved way and the procedure. I think that's a question that we'll have to respond separately on a one-on-one basis. There is another question from Ispahani Agro Limited, and they are one of the leading, very credible conglomerate for quite some time. They're saying that we have been supplying seed and biopesticides to the farmers for growing safe crop, and they're interested in developing supply chain from farmers to consumers, in-house and exports, and they're welcoming or ready to work with any Dutch partner. There's someone from Holland Door, Admarks, and they are offering their assistance to train and educate on poultry. So that's for our Bangladeshi partners to consider and look at. There's a specific thing also from Mr. Admarks about what are the possibilities for hard cheese production and eating hard cheese in Bangladesh. I believe some of those in the audience may take a peek on that. And they are even ready to offer training and equipment for cheese production for groups of farmers in Bangladesh. Very interesting. We have a rudimentary cottage cheese industry in Bangladesh. That's what I know. The question about agro-farm machinery is open. What I would only underline is that it's simply not agro-machinery, but also small farm implements, which is a huge market. Sometimes it's unmapped, not so well documented, but that's an area where some of the other country players are also getting increasingly engaged. But I should also underscore that there is also questions coming from someone in inland fisheries. They're saying, looking at the, looking for technology to scale up. What we know is that Bangladesh right now is producing or harvesting around 4.2 million, 4.3 million fisheries, but it can immediately double or triple in years to come. But then the question would be to having the supply chain streamed up so that it goes for exports like some other countries from Asia Pacific is doing. Also in marine fisheries, there are questions coming, expression of interest to tie up, for example, with the Dutch technology to go into parts of coastal areas and harvest and scale up. There's also a point coming about use of artificial intelligence and Internet of Things chips and etc. devices. across agriculture sector, so that there could be small ventures set up, or the ones who are already working to develop climate adaptive or smart farming, which I believe many farms or farmers across Netherlands, particularly in Wageningen side, may be well aware of. There is also something coming on soil fertility. It's a big issue in Bangladesh. For example, in the wetlands, friends from Netherlands would appreciate that our soil fertility in parts of Bangladesh, particularly wetlands, are going down. Some parts are losing zinc, others potassium, others phosphorus, and that's where there could be possible areas or possible scope of collaboration for soil lab, for example, and that can be also as a business proposition. Then post-harvest loss I mentioned. There is also interest expressed about water efficient varieties. I think that covers. And how about impact investment opportunities? I'm just listing out because many of those, it's such a huge swath that we may not be able to answer all through the panelists, but I'm just taking those few and saying that. Another area of where some of the Bangladeshi friends have expressed their interest is traceability and food safety. I think that covers the whole of thing, both horticulture, flower and vegetable exports eventually. We know that the mango exports which have landed in Switzerland and they are exploring in Amsterdam as well. It would be very important. Also of interest, there's a big potential of as much as $3 billion worth of cashew cultivation eventually in Bangladesh, particularly in the hills. So the gentleman who is championing, he is interested, open for conversation. And then digital agribusiness platform. There is also general interest. I'm basically summing up the kind of heap of observations, questions, propositions which have come in the chat box. So with very limited time remaining, may I turn to, first I'll come to the panelists and then I'll turn to Matthias for the final take and wrap up, because we have to close in 12 minutes exact from now. So to each of the panelists, I'll be coming for 1 minute of your takeaway from this rapid conversation. And certainly, as I said, this is not the end of the thing, this is beginning, it's not a one-off. So with that, may I first turn to Mr. Haminga, please, for your 1 minute takeaway. Yes.
1 minute takeaway. Bangladesh is a great place to come, but you shouldn't come for once. And I'm sometimes a bit unhappy to hear that. If you organize a, how do you say, if you organize a mission to go to Bangladesh that only 6 people attend, I guess it's a bit in between. You have to be bullish enough to go there because there's an enormous potential in Bangladesh. But if you go stay, find somebody with whom you interact properly and come in and don't go for a year. There's sufficient potential. If you look at the growth potential of Bangladesh, I mean, our business will probably grow on a 10% a year basis over the next 15, even 20 years. I mean, that's kind of a percentage of growth we don't see in many other places. You may see it in India, you may see it in Bangladesh, you may see it in Pakistan. But even Southeast Asia is already further developed and has less to grow still. So there is an enormous potential in Bangladesh. And I've always had good experiences doing business here. So yeah, just come.
Thank you. Ms. Grote, please.
Thank you. Well, I can only emphasize that the Netherlands is a horticulture country. We have huge knowledge on cultivation of vegetables, on developing knowledge. We have Wageningen University in-house. It would be wonderful if we can use and export some of that knowledge. So in collaboration with the Bangladesh partners, we can help to develop Bangladesh horticulture.
Great, that's under 1 minute, too precise, the Dutch way. Thank you very much for that. Mr. Shah Jahan, please maybe hear your takeaways.
Yes,
And
yes, yes. Thank you.
how do you,
yes.
what kind of signal would you signal to the Dutch friends?
First of all, Your Excellency, I would signal the most important thing that I've learned is that the initiative that you have taken. The representative of Bangladesh in Holland. I mean, this is very important. In my 25 years of business, let alone my job experience the last 8 years, 25 years of my business, I have not come across an initiative like this, and I applaud that. That High Commissioner is taking initiative. Number one. Number two is that I would like to focus on the expertise from Holland we can get is how to brand or package a product. For example, if you look at the cottage cheese that we make, we call it paneer. Some of you, Mr. Bokwe, I don't know whether you've tried in Bangladesh. Cheese, you know, the cottage cheese. The same kind of cheese, for example, had it been produced in Europe, would carry much higher value. The placement, the packaging, you know, the PR and all that stuff, the finesse and things like that. So there is an area that we can also upscale our products with the help of the Dutch, because Bangladesh, you know, is coming of age. We have been under the colonial system. We have to understand that. Under the colonial system, and then we came out of it. Then we were under the other part of Bangladesh, which is West Pakistan, which is Pakistan now. So we have been suppressed for centuries. But I think that we have come of age, and we are coming of age. So that is my take on this in a short period of time. Thank you, sir.
Sorry, do you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
I'm very humbled, but also I'm embarrassed for your very generous words. But Ms. Boschlo, yes, please.
Yes, thank you. I think it was very nice and good to see all the reaction also in the chat. I think there's a lot of interest for mutual cooperation. And I think both RVO and the embassy in Dhaka, and I'm sure also US embassy in The Hague, I think we should continue promoting Bangladesh and cooperation between Bangladesh and the Netherlands, making sure there's enough information available, organizing event, and eventually often working towards partnerships. I think we have already some nice examples that also some of the panelists are taking part in. And I think that's the way forward. Let's see if we can start up more also with regard to horti, aquaculture, food processing. So let's continue working together and make sure that next time I have to give statistics that Bangladesh will be top in the region in terms of trade interests from the Netherlands. It definitely has the potential.
That indeed is our aspiration, and this is first baby step in that direction. Dr. Ansari, please, maybe have your takeaways.
Yes. Should I say?
Yes, please. Your 1 minute.
Bangladesh is a land of opportunity, and if you look at the population, 1/3 of the peoples are young and energetic.
Sorry for interjection. I mean, if you could just tell me your 2-3 specific things that you, as being a champion in the industry, what would be the 2-3 specifics? People are actually asking me about that as well.
Actually, Bangladesh needs innovation and technology. Bangladesh needs investment from our Dutch partner. Bangladesh needs, I think, a lot of management practices that will enhance and upgrade ourselves and popularize in the world. And it will be a good brand for Bangladesh.
Thank you very much for that. Matthias has been the man, Matthias and Syed are the men behind this whole enterprise as well. Matthias, you have listened, you have been very quietly working also on poultry, seed and feed industry, in particular looking at Bangladesh, and you have been in other parts of Southeast Asia. So maybe in 2 minutes, if you could share your take.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Clearly we are excited about Bangladesh, and having worked in other markets in South and Southeast Asia, I think that the time is right for Dutch companies to really eye on Bangladesh, a market which has maybe not been on your priority list for the past years, but given the macroeconomic developments, the opportunities in certain segments also to get a first mover advantage, we really recommend to have a close look at Bangladesh. I think as stipulated by other panelists, it's a market which requires a commitment. So don't go there one time and expect you to get back with signed contracts in the plane, but it requires attention and good partners. That is something which is definitely relevant. We discussed today opportunities in livestock, in aquaculture, horticulture, dairy was mentioned. I think another segment which we think is also of interest would be bakery. And of course, there are many synergies and cross relations between these value chains. For example, post-harvest and logistics was mentioned. I think that is relevant in many of the industries because there still is a lot of post-harvest loss, which is not only in Bangladesh, but in many Asian markets. So the first mile handling and logistics is relevant. There, the Netherlands could bring a lot of value with our extensive logistics expertise. And as such, I think the Netherlands is a committed partner. We have shown that we are able to implement added value in many Asian markets. Many of the panelists today here, they have been working in Asian markets and have shown that we as Dutch, we can really create added value benefiting both the hosting economy, the host country, in this case Bangladesh, as well as contributing to the Dutch economy. So we as Larive and Light Castle, we are keen on being part of this journey. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matthias. I must have, before I miss out, I must underline one thing, that we were at the very beginning of this conversation or webinar was to hear a wonderful message from Ambassador Harry Vardue, who gave us some for technical glitch. We are still yet to hear his video message. My sincere apologies through this webinar to him and his colleagues. But I'm, sometimes I think Murphy's Law come too badly in action. So this is one of it. With only 2 minutes remaining, let me say that my deep appreciation to Larive and Light Castle for making this happen. To be honest, had they not been here, I would not have ventured in it. Also to all the distinguished panelists for your time, very valued time, expanding this much, not only this much, but also standing with us for withstanding all the indulgences over the past weeks and days. And for your time, not least to mention, to each of the Dutch government partners, RVO, FMO, NAFIC, POOM, if I have not missed out anyone, for your valued support and contribution and understanding, and also believing in us that we could actually stitch a conversation, and this would be hopefully a beginning of a process. I'm not going to give up. And I look at Matthias also that we are talking about something, but will not say that. But also I request that should your interest and time permit, maybe you may not, maybe if you could also look at the 2 other webinars to come today and tomorrow. And if not, certainly the study that Zahid and Matthias have stitched, which would be launched with our honorable statements and some other captains of industry and also with Dutch government on board on 10th, Dhaka time 5 o'clock in the same embassy page, Netherlands time 12 noon. So with that, thank everyone, each of the listeners. I stand to be excused because I can see that in the chat window, there's so much of things coming. I must confess, I have not known this many individuals and entrepreneurs who are doing sterling work and who have so much of potential. I could not manage to look at each of those, but we'll certainly collate those, and to everyone, not only the panelists, we'll send those across a compendium of the observations which have come, ideas which have come, specific proposals or inquiries which have come. On that note, it's now just 1 minute away. Let me sign off and thank you very much. And should those of you interested, please bear with us in next 30 minutes, the second webinar on light engineering to come. And please be assured that some of the things that you have said in the agro-machinery, agri-mechanization, these would eventually connect with light engineering part as well. So as I said, feel free to join. Thank you. And good morning and good afternoon. Good evening, rather.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.